Hey, what's up YouTube? It's Michael with TCO Collective, and today we're going to talk about the 15 albums that made 2013 the definitive year for modern pop punk. As of this video, it's the beginning of 2018, which means it's been 5 whole years since all of these albums released. And I think at this point we can look back with a good retrospective ear and talk about what made this year so phenomenal for pop punk. Let's start off with what is arguably one of the biggest pop punk bands around right now. Neck Deep's A History of Bad Decisions probably isn't their biggest release. Let's be honest, a part of me from their 2012 EP, Rain in July, was everywhere. But it was definitely a strong start to the year and a great follow-up to their debut EP. Catchy and upbeat, but with heartfelt lyrics, it was the quintessential modern pop punk sound in a quick and painless 3-song EP. Next up is the sequel to 2011's impossible to follow up, Under Soil and Dirt. The Story So Far's debut album was definitely a game changer, will probably go down as one of the most influential pop punk albums of all time. So let's talk about their 2013 follow-up. What You Don't See was a solid continuation of their signature sound that didn't veer off too far into the we've matured as a band territory. And as Kellen Kaepernick said during the album's recording, What You Don't See without a doubt focused their youthful energy and angst into an excellent sophomore release. Chuck No Captain Chunk's follow-up to their 2000 debut album, Something for Nothing, is a hard-hitting, metalcore-inspired edition of pop punk, and arguably the pioneer of the "it's real but most people will say it's not" genre of Easy Crab. Whereas their first album was full of synth hooks and the classic English isn't our first language zany lyrics like "Hey dudes, are you ready to?" Pardon My French is a much more mature and serious album. Well, as serious and mature as you can take an easycore band with the name Chunk No Captain Chunk. With songs like Taking Chances, tackling the always relevant concepts of growing up, and songs like I Am Nothing Like You, which is essentially just a straight up metalcore song. Pardon My French changed the game for easycore bands in 2013, and you can still see that through all of the bands still trying to capture that iconic sound. Up next is The Wonder Years. Where do we even start?
Cigarette smoke dances back in the window, and I can see the haze on the dome light. I'm conjuring ghosts on a 40-hour ride home, and they keep asking me what I'm doing with my life.
Hands down, one of the most influential pop punk bands of all time. Remember when everyone on Tumblr kept reblogging those cardboard "I'm not sad anymore" signs? And I would say arguably one of the #1 bands that brought heartfelt, meaningful lyrics into pop punk as a genre, dropped this bombshell of an album in 2013, The Greatest Generation. Now I will say I'm a little bit biased when it comes to this album because it's one of my favorite albums of all time. But I think everyone can agree that this is definitely one of their strongest releases as a band. Being the final album in their Growing Up trilogy, which includes The Upsides and Suburbia I've Given You All. The Greatest Generation takes the catchy and upbeat instrumentation from The Upsides, which 2011 Suburbia, while it is still a fantastic album, I feel like sorely missed. Without being too melodramatic or self-aware, The Greatest Generation flawlessly works through lyrical content about loneliness, being scared, and feeling lost into a digestible and rewarding pop punk album. Rock Sound included The Greatest Generation on their Best of 2013 albums list, and Thomas Nassif of Absolute Punk, rest in peace Absolute Punk, even had to forego a numerical score in his review of the album. And I quote, "It is my firm belief that The Greatest Generation has no real precedent in this community. There isn't another band in pop punk right now that can write a record this good." let me just say, I love this album. I know it's not as memorable as Self-Titled or Real Talk, but honestly, I think it's just a really good album. It keeps that kind of weird signature Mano sound, but gets to show off their softer side, and that they've got the chops to pull off that melodic, emo, pop-punky sound that doesn't really sound like either of those things, and most people aren't able to pull off. Vocalist slash bassist Nick even said about the album, "Is it stupid for us not to put a double time song on this record? Are we supposed to do that? It. We have all these songs that we think are good that aren't double time. Are people going to be mad? Maybe. Lucky for them, Heart Attack was a critical and commercial success, holding a 73 rating on Metacritic and hitting rank 46 on the Billboard 200 in the US. We're halfway through the year of 2013 now, and I just want to remind you guys, if you haven't yet, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We've got more videos like this coming, album reviews, live sessions with your favorite bands, and interviews with a lot of cool people in the music scene and in a lot of really cool bands. So just let us know what you think so far, or wait till the end of the video and then tell us if you agree or disagree down in the comments below. And now we've arrived at what manages to be still one of the most divisive bands in modern pop punk, Real Friends.
I've been up, spending every weeknight in my car, listening to all these sad songs. I know it sounds weird, but they're helping me move past all these things running through my head. I'll blame the Midwest, it's sleepy eyes.
Put Yourself Back Together is the follow-up EP to their underground hit, Everyone That Dragged You Here. While most people can point to Late Nights in My Car as a certified pop-punk banger, this EP also brought to the mainstream the real, fake emo, Jimmy Eat World influence side of the band, which shows in songs like I've Given Up on You. This is also, according to a very vocal corner of the internet, their last good release, and the start of the titular Real Friends curse, the theory that some bands put out their best work on EPs but also follow up with lackluster full lengths. No matter which side of that conflict you find yourself on, we can all agree that this EP was peak Sleepy Eyes and Bony Knees, considering that Kyle Fassel of the band even felt compelled to address the reiterated lyrics in a statement from the band, which has now kind of ended up becoming an infamous copy pasta.
Where's your respect? And didn't your father teach you anything before he left?
Let's be real here. Knucklepuck is like really good. And they are one of the few bands, in my opinion, that were able to carry on the modern pop-punk torch that the Wonder Years lit in 2010. But to be completely honest, this EP hasn't aged all that well. Don't get me wrong, it's full of certified bangers, push pit worthy riffs, and scream along choruses. But to me, Knucklepuck are one of those rare bands that have actually gotten better with each new release. And comparing how much they've matured on their recent releases while being able to stay true to their sound really just kind of brings out the cracks in this EP on retrospective listens. But this is without a doubt the start of Knucklepuck's major career, with every song just bleeding raw emotion and potential. So much so that Rise Records was undoubtedly smart in picking them up. And come on, No Good? That's damn near the pop-punk album of 2013. And finally, we're on the last album of the top 8 portion of this list. The incredibly good debut album from New York State champs, The Finer Things.
So tell me why can't you say this is where you need to be? You know it's taking its toll on me, but I don't feel invisible. So tell me why can't you say this is where you need to be? You know it's taking its toll on me, so I hope for a miracle. Yeah, I hope for a miracle.
Crashing through the gates with the song Elevated, which I swear I listened to this song like 500 times when they released it as a single. Every song on The Finer Things is an absolute gem, with arguably no filler in its 11-track entirety. This is the band that came out of 2013 with the most mainstream appeal, eventually getting to tour with All Time Low and putting out a really well-received sophomore album. But nothing really prepared the world for the pop-punk onslaught that this album brought with it. And this is really one of the only albums that kept that nostalgic early 2000s Blink / Starting Line / Drive-Thru Records-esque sound, even though nostalgia was in full force back in 2013. These next 7 albums I feel like really helped solidify 2013 as peak pop punk, but just didn't manage to fit into the top 8 of all of the great albums that came out that year. This album is so f***ing good. We Still Dream dropped this banger of an album and then all but disappeared, which, while I am still sad that they never followed it up, I am glad that this is the high note that they managed to go out on. We were at peak nostalgia levels in 2013, and they couldn't have picked a better time to release this album. A 10-year anniversary acoustic release. They promoted this album with a full US tour, where they played this bad boy in its entirety and followed it up with another full band set of all of their other classic songs. This is an incredible easycore album from one of the front-runner bands of the era, even though they broke up almost immediately after their release. Rest in peace, City Lights.
I know I'm still the shy guy. Ain't you on top of your game?
Not their best release, but it did have Shy Guys, which I don't particularly like, but did kickstart their climb to the mainstream, and they managed to follow it up with Colorblind, which is a great album. This is some seriously good Easy Crab, and another band that unfortunately called it quits far too early. If this doesn't convince you that cool, djenty, major key, breakdowny riffs aren't awesome, then I'm not entirely sure what else will. Even though they put out one of the definitive easycore releases of 2011, this is peak in her own words. They eventually got signed to In Vogue Records, and their debut album actually included one of the songs from this EP, but re-recorded. Last on the runner-up list, because it's not really a pop-punk album, but without a doubt a high mark on the scene and the culture that comes with it. Honestly, it's a really great album, even if I personally like Young States just a little bit more. And some people are still out there rocking their easycore demo from 2009. Just don't bring that up to them at any of their live shows. And that's it for this video and the 15 albums on why 2013 was the definitive year for modern pop punk. Agree? Disagree? Think I missed an extremely good album? Or do you want to vocalize your distaste for easycore? Hop on down to the comments below, tell us your thoughts. Don't forget to smash that like button, and if you enjoyed the video, subscribe for more videos like this, as well as exclusive live sessions, interviews, and music videos coming straight from TCO Collective. Thanks for watching, guys.